Welcome to this edition of Free Talk, program that is brought to you in partnership with Frederick Newman Foundation, the Heart and Soul TV and Radio, and I am your presenter, Dara Blessed Mhlanga. Now, this week we are going to be discussing a hot and topical issue that has affected a lot of people in Zimbabwe. It has affected parliamentarians, it has affected councillors, it has affected the electorate, those who voted them into office. Using Section 129K of the Constitution, political parties are allowed to recall members of parliament and members of the local authority, that is councillors. Any elected official can be recalled. The reasons that are given in the Constitution are when a member ceases to be when someone ceases to be a party of the party that bankrolled their election. But the political parties have wide discretion. They can recall on any other reason that they so feel, by just simply writing to the speaker that this particular individual has stopped representing that party. With that simple note, a legislator or a councillor elected at a national election can be recalled, except only the president, who cannot be recalled in that manner. So we're going to be discussing this issue, the recalling of members of parliament. Is it the death knell to democracy in Zimbabwe? And recently also, the Standing Orders Committee in Parliament is proposing to fine members of parliament, level 16 fine, for not standing up when President Emmerson Mnangagwa walked into parliament. They did this twice. They see this as levels of disrespect. We're going to be discussing this on this program, Free Talk. Talk that changes, talk that shifts the dimensions. Joining me to have this discussion is the spokesperson of the MDC-T, the party that recently exercised its right to recall Witness Dube. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Blessed, for having me. Greetings to your viewers and greetings to the gentleman here.
I'm also joined by an honorable member who was recalled. The recall X landed on his neck. We're going to be hearing his views and his thoughts. Thank you, Honourable Member, for joining us. Blessed Mhlanga.
Thank you, Blessed, for having me.
And
thank you, viewers, for watching.
And I'm also going to be joined by Electoral Watchdog Chairperson of the Electoral Resource Center, a renowned lawyer, human rights activist, Trust Mahanda. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Blessed, and thank you, viewers. I'm happy to be sitting next to a man on whose neck the ex-film is allowed.
Amazing. Now, I'll just start with you, Ms. Mahanda. Let us look at the topic today. Is this the death knell on democracy? Now, you watch elections. You understand the importance of elections. And Section 129K and its effect on democracy in Zimbabwe.
I would say yes and no to your question. Yes, it's a death knell to democracy in Zimbabwe, in the sense that, first of all, the Constitution simply provides that a political party may recall an MP or a member of the council on the basis that that person has ceased to belong to their party. But what is in dispute, which has not been clarified or expanded upon by the Constitution, is how does one cease to be a member of the political party in whose name or in whose ticket he went into Parliament or into Senate. The Constitution does not spell out how that person is expelled. It does not spell out what the political party is. There's no way of determining what the political party is in terms of the facts that are on the ground. Although the section is clear in its provisions, but the section is so easily weaponized that there's no uncertainty as to who is the political party. And in terms of what basis, or on what basis do we say this person is to be a member of that political party. So there is no role that is clear on the ground as to what the political party must do in order to have a hearing, maybe, in order to determine whether that person is ceased to be a political party or to be a member of that political party or not. What simply happens is that they write a letter, if they don't like you, to Parliament. And also the Speaker of Parliament does not have a role also to play in the sense of verifying whether indeed that person is ceased to be a political party member, because then there can be misuse or abuse of that section. So at the end of the day, it spells a death knell, yes, to democracy, in the sense that the people, they voted you as their chosen candidate. And then somebody who did not vote for you, but against whom you even competed and even beat in the election, then at the stroke of a pen calls you out, calls you back. So what will happen to the electorate? People who loved you, who voted you to be in Parliament, they're not consulted. They don't even believe that you have left that political party. Somebody else who belongs to another political party may recall you. So that section indeed is a death knell on its own and expanded upon, maybe in terms of the Constitution or in terms of the Electoral Act. So it's a death knell. But in another way, what that section tried to avoid also is floor crossing. Somebody is voted for under a party X, and people want you under X party, then you cross over the floor to party Y, which you beat when you were under party X. So at the end of the day, that section was well-meaning in trying to stop people from being elected under one party, and then they go and hope with another party, and then oppose you in Parliament when they were voted by this other party. So in a way, the intention of that section was well-meaning, but the way it is now being applied then makes it a death knell. But in a way, it was trying to protect that democracy. Because certainly, if I vote you into Parliament, I want you to represent me. But when you get in, it's fraudulent to be elected into Parliament by me, and then when you go in, you now represent the other party that is under me. So that section, that in intention was good, but the way it is now being applied is a death knell to democracy.
Amazing. I'll just cross over to Witness Dube. Now, Witness Dube, you are a member of the party that has exercised its rights in recalling. Now, and some have accused you of being vindictive and weaponizing Section 129K. Now, do you believe that these recalls is a death knell to democracy?
Your question is loaded. I'll try to unpack it, one bit of it at a time. But maybe it will be proper, Blessed, to give a context to the situation that you are now raising here for us to discuss, because there's been a phenomenon, the phenomenon of recalls has intensified in the last few years, and right now what is actually made it even more heated is because of the context of the electoral pact that existed, which then was explained by the supreme law of the land, and so many people did not agree to it, but because it was at the highest level of our law, they chose to differ with it to the detriment of their positions in Parliament, because then every other institution was duty bound to take the view or the view of the law as explained by the Supreme Court. So recalls, you'd go back to 2014. This is not the first time that MDC-T has recalled people. In 2014, MDC-T people recalled as many as 20 members of Parliament. And one of them was, Honorable BT, who has been recalled for the second time. Before that, I remember President Shangani dissolved the entire council of Chitungwiza Town Council for corruption. And there wasn't all this noise, because the reasons were clear. Even though those councillors in Chitungwiza were members of the party, they were no longer serving the interests of the party. They were now serving themselves. They had resorted to self-help, to corruption, and the party has directed the leadership to recall all of them. This is the same thing that happened in 2018. Now, the issue is, people must understand that when a recall is effected, who determines who belongs to a party? It's not the Speaker of Parliament. It's not Parliament. This argument that is then being put across, that a letter simply comes and the Speaker of Parliament just decides to read a letter from anywhere and recall somebody, is false. It's the party which forwarded a person to be a public representative, which defines the terms of membership. One of the terms of membership is that the person consistently and continues to pursue the policies of that party, which we saw with the Chitungwiza town councillors. When they became corrupt, they were fired. The other key factor is for the person not to support the interests of another political party. In the case, I'm explaining in the case of the MDC-T. In the case of the MDC-T, if a person who is elected as a public representative begins to push agendas that further interests of another party, which are not in line with MDC-T's political party, MDC-T as a political party, that person qualifies for automatic expulsion from the party, hence from representing the party in Parliament. We must not divorce the fact that when somebody is elected into Parliament, it's not just about voters loving them as a person. Otherwise, we have had a lot of illustrious people who could have, we had demonstrable love from the population, but they never made it. And we've had sometimes very not so illustrious, or so, if I may say, average people making it into Parliament on the strength of political parties, on the strength of the brand of the political party and the policies that the people who vote believe are aligned to that political party. So let's not bungle this issue and oversimplify it and say that it's an issue where the Speaker will just read a letter and decide to recall somebody. It's never that simple.
Amazing. Now I'll come to you, Honourable. In your view, Section 129K, what does it do to the living democracy in Zimbabwe?
Well, that's one thing that we, as a nation, agreed on in 2013, which we shouldn't have agreed on at all. Because within the same constitution, we have got the Bill of Rights, which are very, very clear. You talk about 67, 68, 69, where we even talk about administrative justice. What that means is that you have to follow certain procedures before you arrive to a decision. The issue of a political party, that's another thing that we must interrogate. But what lacks, as far as 129K is concerned, is that there is no enabling act, something that explains what must be done, what procedures must be followed. I'm a typical example. I never received a letter or an invitation to appear before a tribunal when I was first recalled in 2014. The closest thing that happened was when people visited my constituency and met the structures, and I was there at the meeting, and the structures were asked, has Mwonzora ever asked you to follow someone else within the party or to divert from the party? And the people said no. He has been attending meetings and doing his duties diligently. But I was never invited to appear before a tribunal. And what kind of justice is that? Especially from democratic parties. That's one. So there is no law that tells us what must be followed. On the issue of the political parties, I'm glad the witness is here. It was so clear when we went for elections in 2018, there was MDC-T and MDC Alliance. And when the results were announced in Kambuzuma, it was declared that Williams Mazimure of the MDC Alliance party has won. So clear. How then can you have, and this is exactly the results that were taken to Parliament by ZEC. There was nothing else. We also had those who belonged to the MDC-T, who also participated with their president. And where is the confusion under those circumstances? Which party has I now crossed to in Parliament? Because this is a flow crossing provision. I am MDC Alliance. To which party have I crossed to? Which is in Parliament. So, as we speak today, how many parties do we have in the Parliament? All the observers came and said, this is MDC-T, it is its share, MDC Alliance is its share, Zanu PF is its share. Even when you go to calculations of the political finances, it's based on the number of MPs that you have. It's based on the number of MPs that we have. So when you are a democracy, you don't deal with issues in bits and pieces. You go all the way. And when you are not a democracy, you simply say, we are not a democracy. Even my colleagues from the MDC Alliance who were recalled, no one appeared before any committee. It's someone who then says, you now belong somewhere. And you are just told, you now belong somewhere. Instead of calling you, you are an individual who was voted for by those people. You even campaigned. You talked about bank rolling. No, we are not bank rolled. We use our own funds to campaign. Someone should come and say, this is what we gave you as MDC Alliance for you to campaign. We support our parties. And this is what we did. So when it comes to the people who voted, we must respect the electorate. When we went to war, we went for one thing, one man, one vote. And we wanted to respect that vote. Those people queued and voted. They voted for individuals who belonged to a political party. So the political party should also go to the people, ask them, how will you then go back with another candidate if that one is not going to be your candidate? And say, we now have another candidate, when you never consulted them. If we respect the people of Zimbabwe and say they are intelligent enough. On the issue of my recalling from the PDP, the Society Secretary General, I don't even know where he stays. He just wrote a letter. I don't know where he stays. But not only that, in 2017, we had our disagreements when we started negotiating with those other political parties because we thought it was better to go into an alliance or a coalition. So with those differences, another group went, preempted the council that we were supposed to have on the 29th. On the 28th, they fired us. They said they had fired us. And that was the last communication we had. And they went on to negotiate their own coalition with the PRC. And even the person who wrote that letter was number 2 on the PRC's proportional council representative list in Mashingo. And the source called the president of the PDP was also a House of Assembly proportional representative of the PRC in the Midlands. So if you then look at the 129K, it says when you cease to be a member of the party. So they ceased to be members of the party, even though we were not even talking, and no one even wrote me a letter or invited me to any meeting or to any negotiation for them to deploy me to where I am. They should have deployed me. No one deployed me. And then a letter is written by such a person, and it's read to say they have recalled me. I don't know where the person stays. I don't know where his offices are. I know nothing. So this is a death nail to democracy. But it is done deliberately. In our case, we've been doing a lot of work in the Public Accounts Committee. You can go through the reports that we have produced. The best reports ever, which can take the majority of these operatives to jail. And the last meeting that we had ZESA, and we had said we wanted even those ministers who were ministers of energy to come to the next meeting. We had uncovered all the road at Dema, where we went for a contract for a person who would produce electricity at 30 cents, when we could have imported from Kabura Basa at 5 cents. And even now the equipment is missing. We already know where the equipment went. And when we raised those issues, it was found necessary to destabilize the committee. Honorable Biti was the chair, and we were recalled. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't have any reason that I can imagine why people are being recalled. Mm-hmm. But not only that, even the ruling party, when Kilazivu was recalled, Kilazivu is ZANUPF. He only talked about it. Why can't people sit down and talk? And that is
amazing. Now, witnesses raised issues here, which I believe are important for discussion. He says that a political party is the one that determines who is a member of that political party and whether they still serve their interests or not. And I mean, give it to them. It is their organization. It is their responsibility to say, trust, you're no longer MDC Alliance. Would you want to comment on that?
Anyone may as well write a letter somewhere and say, Blessed is a woman. And then the person who receives it immediately says, yes, because the letter has been written. All I'm saying is that just writing a letter out of your differences within the political party to the member, to the Speaker of Parliament, and then the Speaker of Parliament takes it at face value without any evidence of due process having been taken within the political party itself. It means that if I hate you, I simply write a letter. All that witness has been saying is that we determine whether you are still our member or not. But where is it written? Is there any hearing of some sort? Are there any appeal procedures within even the internal democracy of the party? So that when you send the outcome to the Speaker, you are sending an outcome of exhausted internal remedies. Because the Speaker cannot just receive a letter. I may just as well write a letter and say, sorry, so is not a member of our party. There is no law also that says who writes that letter. That's why he is saying, I don't even know where he's staying. The person who wrote it. That person has no relationship whatsoever with that person. They just wake up to write a letter and the Speaker takes it. There is no procedure within the party which ends your membership. There is no evidence to the Speaker that internally you have ceased to be a member. So there's no also provisions on if there are appeals to be done within the political party so that you go to the Speaker after everything has been exhausted and that there is a person who is authorized within the political party to even write that letter with credentials of their authority to do that. So the speaker simply receives a letter from anyone. A baboon can write a letter and say, you are no longer a member of our party. Then that person now does not have any right, even before the Speaker of Parliament, to argue and say, no, they are lying, I was not recalled. So at the end of the day, the Speaker have what we would call a judicial role. In other words, Committee of Parliament must also see whether its member is no longer a member of Parliament. Because certainly if you receive a note to say he's out, then what? Then at the end of the day also, there's no procedure for you to fight your case. For example, there are cases, some of them who have been recalled, are still in court today. And in terms of the law, there's no provision for when should matters of that nature be held and fight. Unlike in petitions, say of an electoral petitions, where you say an electoral petition must be heard within 6 months. You can stay 10 years. Your matter of whether you are supposed to be recalled or not pending before the courts. And 5 years come and they go. And then it becomes academic. Also, when they refill those positions by somebody else, once you are still in court, your going to court becomes also academic in a way, because the courts are presiding over an issue whose result is already predetermined, because somebody is filling your position already, and then you go for 10 years arguing your matters in court, technically, and the like, and the like. So at the end of the day, there's no remedy for a recalled member of Parliament. So whilst the political party may say it's our right, it is a right that must be exercised properly also. I think the laws of the country...
but what is the effect of this recall on the MPs in terms of exercising their duties in Parliament?
Well, it means if you are recalled, you are no longer a member of Parliament. What it means is that in the middle of a committee hearing, and we're chairing it, and we're busy interrogating, and then the letter is read out, you stop. What it means is that you are fired from Parliament. What it means, therefore, is that you are no longer a member of Parliament. It also means that those whose interests you were at that time representing are left to...
My question is,
okay.
Before you are recalled and you are a member of a political party, what does Section 129K do to you as a member of Parliament?
Well, what it means is, it does not what I would effect. It's like an X that continues to hang on you. To say, 129 simply says, a member of Parliament shall cease to be a member of Parliament if a letter is written to the Speaker to say that person has ceased to be a member. Obviously, when you are there, yes, you are representing the interests of your party, but maybe not always that when you are in Parliament, you are representing the interests of your party. Sometimes the interests of your people, whom you represent, may even be greater than the interests of your party. What it means is that you always toe the line. In other words, you do as they please for fear of being told you are advancing someone's agenda. Supposing there is a law that is being debated or a policy being debated, and you side with reason and not your side, at the end of the day, you're exited. So 129K, in a way, also stifles the independence of debate by a member of Parliament.
Witness, the issue that has been raised here, a very important issue that I think you need to the process, due process, administrative justice. Someone surely has a right to be heard.
Yes, these gentlemen, they are actually making my point. The point that is making is that if you don't listen to your party, you can scream and shout, you can go to the top of a mountain and come down. But the bottom line is, if you don't listen to your party, you will be recalled. And because of the avenues that they are trying to justify why they should not have been recalled, they actually make the point that if your party is not pleased with your performance and your interests, that is where your story ends. We cannot begin to export the argument of whether somebody belongs to a party or not to the lips of the Speaker of Parliament. For crying out loud, most of these guys do not even like the Speaker of Parliament. Why would they then want him to come into their party and start looking at issues internally in the party to say, did you do your things properly as a party to arrive at a determination as to whether you should recall this member or not. The Speaker of Parliament belongs to the Parliament as an institution. And the second part of your question that you posed when we began, we'll be dealing with the issue of Parliament as an institution. So we must separate the two institutions. Parliament is an institution on its own.
Is it possible to
to
separate the marriage of Jacob Mdenda as a ZANU PF and Jacob Mdenda as the Speaker of Parliament? Because remember,
what is possible?
Jacob Mdenda is there because he was voted for by ZANU PF.
What is possible to separate is the Speaker of Parliament and the parties, the political parties. The Parliament is an entity on its own. Political parties are entities on their own. You cannot bring the Speaker of Parliament who belongs to another political party to adjudicate on issues.
But he's already doing that.
He is not doing that.
Because, for instance,
he is within the law. Section 129K, Section 129K says if somebody ceases to be a political belong to a certain political party according to that political party, he has no powers whatsoever to delve into how that party has come into that.
But for instance, he made a quasi-judicial decision where Charlton Wende wrote a letter, Douglas Mwonzora wrote a letter. He sat with those letters and decided which one. So he decided which. The
reason why he decided was that there'd been a ruling by the Supreme Court of the land, and it had been clear as to the very argument that was at the core. This is the question that these gentlemen are just skidding, and they are raising a lot of unnecessary issues, totally irrelevant to the core of why they were recalled. The issue is this: when we went into the elections in 2018, we had an electoral pact called the MDC Alliance. It was not a party. It was not a political party. It never registered as a political party. At that time, it never even pretended to be a political party. It was clear it's an institution with seven corporate members, and many of its leaders are on record, articulating that fact, including the leader who was the presidential candidate of that pact, Nelson Chamisa. He was on many forums explaining exactly that MDC Alliance is going into an election as a coalition of 7 political parties which will always retain their individual identity. And the agreement itself clearly articulated that those members who go to Parliament or to Council will always belong to their individual political parties, and those are the political parties that are going to direct their conduct in Parliament. It was always clear, you see. So when members of the MDC-T sought justice from the courts, they were awarded a decision to say, you were right, MDC-T is your political party, you forwarded 111 members. So this is where the whole issue about recalls is coming from. Then people began to say MDC-T Alliance Party, which they now call a party, which at a congress, its first congress in 2019. But even that congress, they never said it was the inaugural congress of the MDC Alliance Party. It was the 5th congress, meaning to say it was building on another political party which had existed before, which is the MDC-T. But even that, MDC Alliance of 20, if it was formed in 2019, then it's not the one that took people into the elections.
There's an allegation that has come that Section 129K can be used for vindictive purposes, and this can be demonstrated in your recent recalls, that there are people who are still in Parliament right now who have declared that they are loyal to the MDC Alliance, that you have not recalled. And you have cherry-picked who to recall and who to leave. So if you were living to the letter and spirit of your constitution, that anyone who supports, then we would have seen people like Molokeli Daniel being recalled, because he has been clear that he's MDC Alliance. We have seen people like Job Sikala being recalled, people like Johanna Mamom. These have not been recalled, but they have been on the same
argument makes my point, really, to say when a party determines who is furthering their interests, it's up to them. You see, Job Sikala can say, I am supporting MDC Alliance, but according to the determination of the party, whatever he does not harm the interests of the MDC-T.
So you can cross the floor as well.
No, there's in politics. It's not cross
because
for us.
He's okay,
you said for the argument of doubt. We are actually the MDC.
You said in your remarks, right? You said in your remarks, anyone who joins another political party or support the interests of another political party,
Yes.
is automatically recalled because they are fired from the party.
But in my argument, I never endorsed MDC Alliance as a political party. I have not.
But
whatever I've said, I've not said MDC Alliance is a political party.
You recalled Hepmo Chidziva on the basis that he signed an affidavit saying that he supports the MDC Alliance political
as
party.
a party. But our view of members who are in Parliament, who were forwarded by the MDC-T, is that they were forwarded by us, and the MDC Alliance, according to the documents, the constitutive documents, is us. And now the current leader, officially and legally, would be Douglas Mwonzora, the leader of that pact, because the agreement says that pact will be led by the president of the MDC-T. So in essence, for anyone to stand out and say, I am MDC Alliance, in itself is not a crime. But it is what they then do to fight the MDC-T as an institution, which determines.
Let us just go for a short break. This is a Free Talk, proudly brought to you by Frederick Newman Foundation. Now, today we are discussing the topic, an amazing topic where we're discussing, is Section 129K, which is responsible for the recalling of members of parliament and the sanctioning of members of parliament, a death knell to democracy. Now, just a short break and we'll be right back. Thank you. We're right back at it. This is Free Talk, brought to you in proud partnership with Frederick Newman Foundation. Free speech is the center of democracy. And before we went to the break, Honorable Blessed Mhlanga wanted to say something, was itching to say something. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. Listen, you know, what Witness is saying is quite exciting and amazing. And I think it's also because probably the institutional memory Witness doesn't have a lot of it. Because here comes with the situation that we have. We have someone who contested a presidential election as a candidate of another party, who now is sworn into parliament as a member of parliament. That's one. We have people who also contested as MDC Alliance, who now call themselves MDC-T and are now doing the recalling. The constitution of the MDC is very clear. We are all aware that the mandate of all those people who were elected in 2014 at the Congress that was held at the National Sports Center, their terms had expired. And when the court gave its verdict, it asked those people to convene an extraordinary Congress. It didn't give them the powers of the national executive and the national executive, the national council, to do the recalls. Under the constitution of the MDC-T, such decisions are discussed at the standing committee level, go to the national executive and the national council to endorse. And this didn't happen.
It happened.
No. You know, when you are still driving something and you are enjoying, you never realize that what I am doing is even dangerous to our democracy. This is where the problem that we now have. We now have people who are so now comfortable and think that they have got everything and they can do anything. We forget that this party was formed because the people of Zimbabwe wanted change, and the people of Zimbabwe knew exactly what they wanted. Even up to today. How do you recall?
It would be better if we stuck to the issues so that we exhaust them.
You had all the time.
Now you're politicking. Now you're just throwing political.
Can we allow him to?
This is free talk, and I will politic. I can really politic if you want me to.
But that will be divorced from the material facts.
How do you recall someone whom you cannot even replace? How do you recall a member of parliament who is supposed to represent the people? the interest of the people. And elections cannot be held. You know that elections cannot be held. You are recalling councillors who are supposed to ensure that service delivery is offered to the people. And you are not even calling for elections. How do you then replace the people proportional? You replace them. But as far as the question is concerned and the Electoral Act is concerned, should be based on the number of MPs or the votes that you have. How do you justify the proportional representatives that you have now brought it to Parliament when you don't have the votes of the MPs? Because you have got zero. As far as for all the MPs.
But that's a misrepresentation.
No. This is exactly how we are not interpreting the Constitution well. And you are only doing it for your own benefit. You are not doing it for the benefit of the people of Zimbabwe. If you were
but Honorable Matsima, you realize that leadership at the MDC Alliance or MDC-T had changed by virtue of the Supreme Court ruling. And you decided to defy that leadership. What did you think was going to happen to you?
What leadership are we talking about? The Constitutional Court, even in its own judgment, it also mentioned the issue of the mutinous of the. It was water under the bridge. We had all went our separate ways.
But there was no water under the bridge with a decision, a ruling that an extraordinary Congress should be held. Now, when you say an extraordinary Congress should be held and you nullify all the other decisions, what you effectively are saying is these are the people who are now in charge and they're running the party.
People in charge.
Thokozani Khupe, Douglas Mwonzora.
Those are not the MDC. The MDC is an institution with its full structures. This is where we have a mistake. You then give the Bible to 3 people and they run away with it. The MDC was an institution. They said go back to the 2014 structures.
And we did.
No. We have got to have voters' roll.
Yes.
The people who participated, and if it was not even a quorum, that one, the one you did.
Let us look at the issue as
how many people voted?
Honorable. Let us look at how this.
But if you're going to allow him to talk alone and throw a lot of things that he can't respond to, your listeners are going to miss that.
Can you allow me to guide that?
Yes.
Because I am guiding it. Let us zero in on how this affects democracy and how this affects the development of this country, and not bog it down to the particular political party, because as you have said, it is a bigger picture that we want to look at. So let us look at the bigger picture, how these recalls have affected democracy and what we can do to ensure that we keep our democracy intact.
Yeah, going back to the issue of real democracy and how this has affected the people. Right now, we have got more than 50 people who are not in Parliament. Who are supposed, do your calculations right, and you will see that there are more than that. Because we also even have, on the ZANUPF PF side, we have got also people who have passed on and the like. We have got so many people who are not in Parliament right now. We have got so many constituencies that are orphaned right now. People must be represented.
And we have Harare City Council that is dysfunctional.
Actually, it's only when we go back to the issue of devolution, it must have its own council that is chaired by a mayor, and members of Parliament must be part of it. Let's not even talk about the issue of the amendment. The Constitution, as it stands today, provides for a council, a Harare provincial council.
Yes.
And it's not there. It also provides that everyone must be represented. And there's no councillor. And because of that, I come from Kambuzuma. I was there yesterday. If I show you the videos of the sewage flowing everywhere, there is no one representing the people. So while the political parties can do whatever they want, they must respect the people of Zimbabwe.
I mean, I want to come to you, and say, let us look at the because we're fast running out of time, but let us look at the recent decision that is being made by the Orders Standing Committee. It seeks to punish those who did not stand up or did not attend Parliament in a manner that they feel ridiculed the position of His Excellency, the President of this country. Level 16 fines. Talk to that.
If my memory is correct, level 16 fine is 400,000 RTGS. I don't know if you use the rate of 100. What does that translate to? How much is that? It's $4,000? $4,000.
The rate of 83.
The rate of 83. That would be around 5, almost 5. So what I'm saying is, one, the penalty itself is very steep. And then two, a law must not be made in order to apply retrospectively. In other words, if it was not an offense, then you cannot make it an offense retrospectively. If there was no law in the first place that forbade a certain conduct, you cannot then forbid that conduct now and then make it an offense backwards. So at the end of the day, it will be improper to punish somebody for an act which was not an offense when they did that offense, if it is an offense. But also, much more importantly, Parliament is not a high school where you have a headmaster to say tuck in your shed and things like that. And I think there's many ways of expression. You can express by anything in terms of how you show that you are not happy with a certain thing. And I think for us to muzzle the members of Parliament to an extent of making them school children, it will be to also stifle parliamentary privilege of freedom of expression. Because what happens in Parliament is actually what should happen in Parliament. In other words, there are things that when you do in Parliament, it's not an offense when you go outside. So at the end of the day, I would submit that that will be too draconian as well. And obviously, the composition of those that will preside over that will obviously be one-sided, because there has been recalls. So who will be there, in fact, to be in that committee? If there's any committee, it will be like the monkeys who are made to preside over a dispute of a forest. You know what happens was they're the users of that. So what I'm trying to say is that there will be people who are interested in the outcome that will preside over it.
There's also this clause that if found guilty, you cannot be a member of Parliament in your life.
What that means is that they must then go back to change the Constitution, because the Constitution outlines what makes a person not to qualify for nomination as a member of Parliament. You cannot make standing rules of Parliament that override the provisions of the Constitution and the Electoral Act. They will have to do two things: go to the Constitution and then go to the Electoral Act, because the Constitution prescribes what should be in order for somebody to be disqualified, not by standing rules. It will be like making rules that override the constitutional provisions. And at the end of the day, again, it will be a death knell to democracy, because you can be dismissed from Parliament at the stroke of a pen. You do not know how to behave in Parliament. Otherwise, you are chucked out, like you are expelled from school. I don't think it will be proper for members of Parliament.
Witness?
I'm in total agreement. As the MDC-T, we feel that the institution of Parliament should not be fettered in any way. There must not be any attempt at all to channel the thought processes in Parliament. I mean, we have seen in other democracies, we have seen fights, literal and physical fights in Parliament. We have seen across the Limpopo in South Africa, people like Julius Malema calling the president of the country a thief, or even calling by his son's name, Baba Tutuzane, referring to the former President Zuma and stuff like that. The vibrance of a democracy can only be reflected by how its parliament treat its parliamentarians. So what is happening now, what is unfolding now in Parliament, we think as a party we feel that members of Parliament are being intimidated. It's a draconian law. It's one of the most barbaric kind of excesses that we have seen from our Parliament, and this is what is retrogressive. This is what is anti-democracy. This is what is here to extinguish democracy in our society, and we totally disagree with that position.
But just previously you said you could separate Parliament, the institution, and and political parties. So do you think that this is Parliament, the institution, or this is political party at play in this sphere?
What you then get to see is attempts by a political party to meddle into parliamentary affairs in a manner they shouldn't. Even ZANU PF itself, by its own standards, they should be ashamed of making the kind of overtures that they have made. We know we have come to expect the worst from them, but even by their standards, this is unacceptable.
But do you think, seeing this, do you then think that it's possible to separate the institution from the political party as it stands?
The trust of everyone. MDC-T, we believe in the separation of institutions. ZANU PF equally, they must know that there is that separation. Yes, over time they've projected that they do not see the difference, but this is what we are consistently pushing them to see, that there is a difference between your party and Parliament. There is a difference between ZANU PF headquarters and their party headquarters, where their president even was receiving defectors. We felt, and we expressed it openly, that should have happened at party headquarters. So this conflation of state institutions with ZANU PF as a party is something that we totally abhor, that we totally do not agree with, and we will fight tooth and nail. And on this case, we will be expressing ourselves and ventilating ourselves fully on this matter.
You are about to be banned for life from participating in elections in Zimbabwe, becoming a member of parliament ever again.
Yeah, people like myself, we saw this coming. And the whole reason is very, very simple. To make sure that by the time we get to 2023, almost all members of parliament who are said to belong to the MDC alliance are nowhere near a constituency to contest an election. This is the whole reason why we have got all these recalls, is to make sure that the opposition is totally destroyed.
But the recalls are being done by your own colleagues.
In a normal democracy, and I can say.
So are you saying the opposition is the one that's destroying opposition?
In a normal democracy, what is happening in the Parliament of Zimbabwe cannot be imagined happening. Even our colleagues, because of what I have said, witness should say, this is...
No, don't put words in my mouth. I can speak for myself.
Thank you very much. No one can say, when they went through this process, for him to be declared that he doesn't belong to the party that sponsored him into parliament.
Can I come in there, Blessed?
Let me go back to the issue of the motion that was presented to parliament regarding the members of parliament. Where in the world can you find 111 people be charged with or have the same penalty? 111 people.
Except for
somewhere on their deathbed, they were sick. They didn't come to parliament. Some were not in the chamber. They were seated somewhere where they were watching on television.
I totally agree with you.
And you then say there was any rationale to arrive to that. And not only that, parliament is very clear. The members of parliament who are in the house should reflect any committee of parliament that you put in place. So the moment you have all ZANU PF members trying members of the MDC alliance, then you already know that it's predetermined, the outcome of that investigation. So this is what happened. They even, if you read the report well, it said some even came crying to say, no. Some are saying I was whipped to do that. Some said I didn't even know that I was committing any offense because I didn't just come to parliament. I, for one another day I was burying someone in Marondera. One other day I was coming from my home. And it was not only the MDC Alliance members of Parliament who didn't come to the House on that particular day. There are also a lot of ZANU PF members who didn't come. So how would I have been then forced to come and listen to Mutuli reading his budget statement? This is not the first time this has happened. During Mugabe's era, Mugabe was even worse. We didn't even walk out. We sang. But even when the current president was the Speaker of Parliament, he would say, Honorable member, you have been heckling a lot. If you can't debate, you can even sing or cry. So there are several ways of expressing yourself. This is the freedom of expression. And we have those rights. Apart from that, while one is the president, he's also a president of an opposition party. We also have got things that pains us, that the executive we have done, even to other members. You talk of the Joanna Mamombe, what is happening to them? What would motivate you to stand up? You must be respected for people to do that. There are certain things that you must, certain standards that you must meet also as a state president that makes people feel that you are also the president. But not only that, it's not written anywhere in the standing rules and orders that whenever there is a budget presentation, you must come. Because even the president might not even come for the budget presentation. It's not mandatory for him to come. It's his choice. And sometimes I don't even know, I wouldn't even know that the president will be coming. So making us paying that fine and withdrawing the
diplomatic
passports, you know, it only makes Zimbabwe a laughing stock. If I am to be in the speaker's panel, and here we are, diplomatic passports, this route, and I'm his member of parliament, and I'm asked to take another route, what impression does it give? So this is unjustified. This is again another move to make sure that there is no democracy at all.
Trust. The president is a political animal in his person. He represents a political party and also is elected to be president on the card of that political party. Now, he's coming to parliament to meet other political animals. Should there be game rules on how to treat a president when he walks in to the political jungle?
Yeah, well, the president represents a political party, but when he comes to parliament or when he performs the duties of the head of the state, he is not a member of a political party. He's the head of the state. I think even though we may differ politically, I think there are institutions that we should also respect. For example, we were saying the Speaker of Parliament is a member of a political party, but when he sits there as the Speaker of Parliament, the institution. So at the end of the day, I don't believe that a law which requires certain behavior towards certain offices must be taken to be unlawful, if you like to call it that way. I really think that there is certain behavior that we look for, even in certain ceremonies. We may differ, but this is not a political rally. This is not where the president comes to address you as a political animal, but in his capacity as the president. So I would think that this is where we are having problems now. To say you deal with somebody where we conflate things. You are saying when the president is conducting party things, he must go to the party headquarters. But when he's conducting national things, he must go to the State House. But those are symbols. Those are symbolic things. So I really submit that whilst we may differ with somebody and we do not agree, we may respectfully disagree. I may go before a judge and I may not like his judgment. You call him my lord, you call her my lady, and you say, even if he rules against you, say, as you please my lady, as you please my lord. So there is a measure of behavior that we look for. Even though you may differ with somebody, there is a way of differing respectively. When you hear lawyers arguing in court, they say my learned friend. But when they say my learned friend, they then say he's saying things, he is my lord, and they begin to put it this way, to actually call you down, but they've called you my learned friend. So there's a way of behavior.
But is it not the reason why, you know, baboons are called the parliament of baboons?
So I really think that it's also because there's no way also of venting out. Because members of parliament have no way of venting out to the president also from a political perspective. If you shut out all other avenues of expression, then people will find the smallest the slightest avenue of vending out. If people are allowed to say much in the streets, and they can petition whoever they can petition easily, then there will be no way for people to take advantage of of a certain event in order for them to vent out. I would think there's a certain way, yes, that we are supposed to behave. I differ with judges, but I have to do it with respect. I differ with the president, if I may have to, but he remains the president. So at the end of the day, Parliament is not a place where you go there to chant and shout.
Yeah,
do
exactly.
it at a rally. When you're in Parliament, I think there's a way of behavior. And I don't think we elect you to go and fight as he is saying that people can remove their ties. I've watched movies there. That's not a debate to beat up each other in Parliament.
Amazing, thank you very much. Now, as we go to closing, but I want us to go, into thought to say, how do we maintain our democracy? How do we develop this nation? How do we become a nation that has a seat on the table of nations and be respected? But just before we do that, let's just take a quick break, and we'll be back soon. Welcome back to this edition of Free Talk in partnership with Frederick Newman Foundation. We are discussing democracy in Zimbabwe. We're looking into the activities of Parliament, the recalls, the sanctions of members of Parliament. Is this a death knell to democracy in Zimbabwe, and what we can do to make sure that we are a living and vibrant democracy that has development at heart, at the center of all we do? After all, when we elect members of Parliament, when we elect representatives, their core purpose and their core function is to be catalysts of development in this nation. I'm going to ask witness to in his closing remarks, in his submissions, to deal with the two issues, the Section 129K and the penalty on parliamentarians.
Thank you. I think the issue with parliamentarians is twofold. We have a situation where we have hefty fines, prohibitive fines, which we don't want to see in a democracy. They hinder expression, they instill fear in parliamentarians. But however, the other side of it is that, the issues that are being mitigated by by those fines are still alive, are very much alive, are very much substantive issues that we must look at in terms of the decorum of our parliament, what we want to get out of discussions, engagement in parliament. This is why, as the MDC-T, we have actually been vocal on rational disputation, our new philosophy of rational disputation, to say that wherever we differ, let's try to do so in a manner that is constructive, in a manner that is progressive, in a manner that is accommodating of divergence of views, in a manner that will not disrupt that very engagement. We realize that when people go to parliament, they are there from different political parties because essentially they've got different views to almost everything, but they are there to find common ground that is going to position this country for development going forward. Then on the issue of recalls, one of the issues that the voting population in Zimbabwe must never forget is that we operate on a parliamentary system where they vote people based on the policies of the party, on the leadership traits collectively of a party, not of an individual. So we must never allow the sideshows around the issue of recall to detract from the fact that individual members of parliament must never look at themselves as sovereign once they are in parliament. They will always belong to political parties. They know the rules that apply to the political parties that they would have joined. Everyone knows about these recalls, which is why sometimes it comes as a surprise to some of us. MDC-T recalls people, but you still had people in the PDP party who did not take cue from what was happening in the MDC-T, and they still worked against their party PTP, and they were recalled. I'm not going to speak into issues involving PTP because that's another political party, but specifically with the MDC-T, it was the leading party in a pact called the MDC Alliance. And because in this country we don't have a situation or a legal door where some people register parties, all what one has to do is to simply submit for an election at ZEC, and that translates to some kind of notification of your existence. But with the MDC Alliance, there was that underlying constitutive agreement which clearly specified that MDC Alliance is not a political party, but just a forwarding vehicle for the elections, because we needed to harness the numbers in the 7 different political parties. So MDC-T still retains power on all the elected officials, and at any material time, if it deems that they are not serving the interests of the party, it will recall them. But it's still the leading party in the MDC Alliance anyway. So it's not a crime for anyone to say they are MDC Alliance. But it is what they will then do to work against MDC-T as an institution which forwarded them to the MDC Alliance, which becomes a crime.
I like the way that you say we forwarded the vehicle. When you contested against that vehicle, I just thought I'd mention that, because you certainly, your name was on the ballot contesting against.
No, but you cannot divorce that from the context of the Supreme Court judgment, which then came to say
I'm not divorcing it.
But the way you have thrown it in there, it now says MDC-T was an institution on its own in 2018, and MDC-T in the alliance was another institution.
No, I didn't say that.
The Supreme Court then came.
I said you as.
No, but let me clarify this one then. Yes, let's clarify it. Yes. I contested because there was a difference in opinion in the MDC-T. One part of it contested differently, the other contested in another part. But then the Supreme Court judgment viewed the MDC-T under Khupe and the MDC-T in the alliance under Chamisa as 2 factions. And it found both Khupe and Chamisa not to have gone about the business of resolving the leadership of the MDC correctly. Therefore, ordered them to do an extraordinary Congress. Chamisa was free to attend that ordinary Congress, and he chose not to.
Amazing. In conclusion?
Yeah, well, as far as I'm concerned, the situation that we have at the moment is that we are abusing the provision 129K. As my colleague said, from the day that a Congress was held in Bulawayo, that means individuals ceased to be the member of what they now call the MDC-T. Ceased to be members. This is very clear. So it is the abuse of 129K that led to the current recalls. The same applies to people who are recalling, some people saying you now belong to the MDC Alliance, you are PDP, when they also contested. From the day, if I was going through the Gazette of the 22nd of June 2018, all those people who contested in the various political parties
don't revise
to be members of those.
Don't revise the constitutive documents of the alliance.
But you were silent when you were talking. Please.
But he's revising.
I think we are going to sanction you.
The political parties are not run by the Supreme Court. They are not formed by the Supreme Court.
But the Supreme Court interprets our constitution.
Witness, can we have civil debate?
They don't form political parties. And this will be proved as we go forward. This will be proved as we hold by-elections, that the Supreme Court cannot form political parties and then cannot micromanage political parties. It's separate entities, and they must remain in their own track. So no one should have been able to recall. The moment you participate in another one, which you call a political party, and this another political party, you belong there and this one belongs there. And that is how ZEC should not even have entertained this issue of recalls. On the issue of what happens in the Parliament, the issue of the powers that the Speaker now has, or the SROC's powers that it is now giving itself. This simply indicates one thing, that our democracy, if we don't stand up, especially those who purport to be opposition political parties and fight together, this is the death nail to our democracy. You can't have a situation, yes, we must respect each other, but where we don't respect each other, we must then follow due process and make sure that we don't make laws to correct what has already happened. Laws are not made in retrospect. And also laws are made for the good governance of the people. And as far as I'm concerned, for you to then ask for a level 16 for a person whom you record again, what you are simply trying to do is to make sure that this person will not be able to pay. You then take that person to court, wipe all what he has. If he doesn't, probably end up taking the person to Chikurubi, purely for the purpose of making sure that that person will not participate in any election. And why do you do that? Is to kill democracy. And this is exactly what is happening in Zimbabwe. There is no justification whatsoever. You can't justify it. Not standing up is not a crime. Walking out is not a crime. If I can't stand what you are saying and I decide to walk out, there is no disrespect in doing that.
In future, honourable member, you won't be able to go to the toilet when the president
exactly.
is in.
You will be misconstrued to have walked out. Or not even that. There were people who were not even in the house.
Amazing. From your view, Electoral Resource Center, you work in terms of ensuring that we have free, fair elections and that the elections deliver what the people would have said. What do you think, in conclusion, should be done to preserve our democracy and to ensure that Zimbabwe's democracy remains vibrant?
Yeah, as the RSA, our position has always been clear. We have even written an opinion around the recalls in terms of what the law provides, and even the law to do with the holding of by-elections after someone is recalled. Section 129K is a clear provision of the law, but it's not clear in the sense that it does not set out the procedures that lead to its implementation. In other words, it is simply a bare statement, but it needs to be clothed by expansion, maybe in the Electoral Act, in order to operationalize it, in order for it not to be weaponized as a tool of differences, of settling differences. We have always been arguing that the problem with it is that there's no clarity as to why somebody is recalled. It remains in the mind of the recaller to say he's no longer a member of our party because of 1, 2, 3, even things that are not proven, because the person would not have been subjected to a hearing. So the odd rule, which we call the odd rule, is the rule of let the other side be heard, hear the other side. So when you don't hear the other side and you make a decision upon which a whole nation will also depend, in the sense that members of parliament don't represent just their constituents, they make laws of the whole country. And so if a letter takes away that it deals with democracy, it actually is a sounding of a death knell. So there's a lot of things there that need to be done to make Section 129K user friendly, in that it does not affect democracy. Coming now to the issue of parliament, I think the constitution is clear on what makes somebody cease to be a member of parliament. If you are away from parliament for no reason, for 21 consecutive days, you cease to be a member. So there is already a sanction for not attending parliament, which the constitution in its wisdom has already stipulated. Not to say you were sick, why didn't you come to parliament? Or you simply did not want to hear what they were saying, why did you not come to parliament? I think parliament becomes now a school where you've got rules to say your hair must be, your shirt must be, and then we cease to be people who are free to express ourselves in parliament. And I think parliament is not a place where you fear to go. If anybody wants to send me to parliament today, I don't want, because I may end up with a criminal record of being convicted. Then where do I get $44,000 or $5,000 in this economy? I do not know how much they were getting per sitting in coupons only. And that's why others have said, we lose nothing for being recalled. Instead, you actually pay parliament for coming and driving there and things like that. So I really think that the sanction is too unwarranted, and there has a chilling effect on freedom of expression by members of parliament. And I think we must not make people toe the political line. for everyone else. In Parliament, I think we still maintain our political party lines, and we must be able to express that. But I also say Parliament is not a place where you show your muscular ability, as it were. I think it still remains a place where you must behave very well, but not to be sanctioned like a schoolboy, to have your passport taken away, like you're taking away some privileges, and then people are afraid. I think adults must not be subject to that, particularly in Parliament.
Thank you. Amazing discussion here we've just had. And just to cap it up, the MDC, collectively, the MDC Alliance has lost 48 members of Parliament, of the Assembly to recalls. ZANU PF has lost some to death, and the NPF has lost one in Kwekwe also to death. And currently in the House of Assembly and in Parliament, we are having a constitutional amendment bill number 2, where 26 amendments are being proposed. And you do not have a full complement of the people's representatives to debate such important legislative agenda. Harare City Council is almost crippled. Councillors have been recalled. None have been replaced. Service delivery is being threatened. Across the country, councillors have been recalled. The people's choices that they made in 2018 are no longer reflected in the institutions that they were elected to be in. Is it a death knell to democracy? Or are political parties exercising rights that they should be entitled to at the cost of taxpayers? Because recently ZEC spoke about needing close to 18 million. That was before the local currency even deteriorated further. We do not know to date the revised figures of running those by-elections. So the recall does not only affect those who elected the members of Parliament, it also affects the fiscus in terms of by-elections. Is democracy being served? Is this fair to the people of Zimbabwe? We want to hear your say. Please comment on our comment sections, come to our inbox, let us hear from you. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for this amazing debate that we have had, and we hope to engage you in the future and have more constructive debates as we just did on this program. Frederick Newman Foundation sponsored Free Talk in partnership with Heart and Soul TV and Radio, and I am Dara Blessed Mhlanga. Till next time, good night. This is Free Talk in partnership with Frederick Newman Foundation, our partners in free speech. Free speech is the center of development of any nation.